Hi, everyone. It's Denise Brown from caringourway.com, and we are excited about our sixth annual virtual Beginning Again retreat, which happens October 25th. We start at 10 a.m. and we go for 3 hours, and it's all about supporting you in your life after caregiving ends, because life is different for you. So, we've got a series of workshops including one from Kristine Oller, who's here with me today. Kristine, it's great to see you.
Lovely to be here. Lovely to be invited to participate in this.
Yeah, so that's my first question to you. Why did you want to be a part of this event?
Well, I'm very much interested in helping caregivers, and you are just one of the stalwarts of this industry, really a trailblazer. And so you've invested so many years contributing to the mental and physical well-being of caregivers that I've just looked to you as one of the leaders, and getting the opportunity and the invitation to contribute on your platform was like an easy yes, just a wholehearted yes.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. We connected for a presenter meeting a couple weeks ago, and when we connected, your mom and your dad had just died, and they
Yes.
died within it was less than 24 hours, if I
Yeah, it
remember.
was like it was like 2 days, 2 days, but definitely less than 48 hours apart. Yeah.
Wow. And you also cared for your sister.
Mhm.
So you have the perspective of caregiving ending.
Mhm.
And it was interesting to me when I read your workshop description, you're really looking at emotion that we feel, that sometimes we feel funny talking about, which is anger.
Yeah.
And why did anger resonate with you as a topic for a workshop?
Two reasons. One, personally, I've had a lot of experience with anger, and not just anger, but rage, because I believe those are two different things. Rage is very physical. And if it's not gotten out of you, it can really start to eat away physically in your body. So, and then anger can be a wider spectrum, but they're not the same thing. So I've had a lot of experience in the caregiving space with rage and anger and then resentment towards my parents for how they handled my sister's life. And she was very sick in a painful way for over 2 decades. And I was her primary caregiver. She lived with, so my caregiving experience with her was 12 years. And then she lived with my husband and me for 7 years, but she then lived with my parents for the last 5. And those were a shit show. And so all through that time, I had to process rage, and then I had to deal with anger. And I learned a lot about that. And then the second reason, so personal experience, but then during that time, I was also working with a grief coach because I realized I was anticipatory grieving and just grieving the loss of my relationship with my parents, like that whole thing. And she mentioned, a lot of times when the caregiving ends, or really any death occurs, uh, people don't get to grieving sometimes for years because they're in anger. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't want that. I don't want anger to inhibit my grieving process. So I need to figure out how to deal with the anger. And I did, and I have things to share. But the only reason I'm even interested in sharing this, the only reason I'm ever interested in talking to caregivers is to help them save energy. It's not because we should be good people and we shouldn't have anger and we should just be kind. And no, it's anger eats up a lot of energy, as does rage and certain simmering resentments. Just it's like a drain on your battery. And caregiving, of course, takes up a lot of energy, but reinventing and like recovering and restarting a life post caregiving, you need a lot of energy. to direct towards that. So I felt I could come here and contribute ways to plug some of your energy leaks around anger.
I love that. Something that came up for me, which I was really surprised about, was anger with my siblings about a year, 14 months after my dad died. So my brother died, then my mom, then my dad, and then actually my brother's wife died.
Oh, wow.
And it was every year. And I thought I had processed everything. Like I was keeping up with how I was feeling because I knew about the energy. I knew that if I didn't just take time to feel it, if I bottled it up, it was going to come out in ways that I didn't like. But it was interesting to me to have a little more time to reflect, which made me think, they didn't help me as much as what I say they did. Like, didn't I have to like drag them into helping? And then it really made me angry, so much so that I really was thinking, what's my relationship like with them going forward? I have a choice now. What's my choice? And it was really helpful to consider that. And ultimately, my choice was I stay in relationship. And it really was a period of probably 4 months of really thinking this through, talking it out with friends, considering what's my life without them like. And it was anger that started that path of really thinking through what's my relationship and what's my choice.
Yeah. And in this period that we're talking about at this retreat and workshop is really that period of reinventing your life. And it pains me when people limit what they think are their choices. Because a lot of times it's like, oh, well, our family's it's back to business as usual. And it's like, oh, it doesn't have to be. Absolutely doesn't have to be. It can be, but it should be a choice, not an obligation or societal construct, or this is just, yeah. So the fact that you, with those 4 months of processing and reflecting, decided and made a conscious choice of like, I do want to stay in connection, and this is how it'll be, and these are the boundaries, and this is what, then go forth. Yeah.
And I also
Yeah.
like the permission
And
to
then,
feel. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, I was just going to say, and because it was a conscious choice, and not an thing you're doing out of obligation or tradition or whatever, it's not draining away your energy.
Right. I decided. So I moved on. Right. And I moved on in
Mhm.
relationship. I love the idea of giving ourselves the authority to feel the anger. We have men who are presenters. We know that men are going to join us as attendees. And I think that they have a different kind of authority around anger than women might. For instance, I think as women, we're just not, it feels inappropriate to be angry as a woman, which then leads us to be enraged, right? So I love the conversation just to normalize the idea that we all feel anger. And it's because we have every right to feel anger.
Yeah. We're holistic human beings. We're just conditioned. If you were raised as a female orientation, you're likely conditioned to, no, anger is inappropriate. Just like for men, they're conditioned that vulnerability is weak, but they have it, and we have anger. And so, what we are able to do now in this day and age is free ourselves from the conditioning and make our own choices and realize anger is neither good nor bad. I believe everything's neutral. Light side, dark side. That's all. Anger's neutral. It's fine. Vulnerability, neutral. Light side, dark side. Yeah. Yeah.
And what was a gift because of the anger is that I processed emotions. And I
Mm.
processed emotions around situations where my siblings judged me because of my response, my reaction. I was angry at certain moments with my dad in particular, who was a difficult guy. And the way that my my sister and brother dealt with him was to never deal with him. But they were in and out, and I was consistently there, so I had to deal with him, and I was angry with him at times. I felt like at times he was in the way of giving care to my mom in the way that she deserved, and so I stood up for her, and they really judged me about it. And my anger, because I reflected on that later, made me realize that's not the story that I'm gonna tell about that situation. I'm not gonna tell the story they're telling me to tell. I'm telling a very different story, which is about me standing up for my mom, and that made me feel really good, and I thought they don't have a story to tell like that, because they always just, "Whatever, dad," and you know what? The courage to stand up to him and the courage to advocate for my mom is a great story that I feel so good about having. And it's the anger that led me to think through that story.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's all just stories. It's all just fiction. It's just, do you want to tell yourself a story that makes you feel good? Or do you want to get you out of bed in the morning? Or do you want to tell yourself a story that makes you feel bad? It's, but it's all just stories. So we get to choose. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
siblings, it's so hard because every sibling had a different set of parents. And then every sibling is wired differently, so they're gonna relate to the whole thing. Family dynamics, really complex. Yeah, and I had almost the opposite situation than you, is because my sister was living with my parents and we needed that shelter for her, and I was so angry about how they were treating her, but she was like, "You cannot confront them. You cannot disrupt the apple cart. We have to keep this thing together." And I just wanted to defend her as you did with your mom, but she was the one like, "Nope." And so I was just like left over here going, "Well, how then am I going to be able to do that?" Yeah, because you can't just repress it because then it'll just come out. And then when it comes out and erupts, you have no control over it. So I had to find a way to process it so I just wasn't filled to the brim with it every time I went over to the house. For her sake, for her sake.
Right. And I think what's so interesting is that's an example of how caregiving takes so many different shapes. And it's one of my greatest frustrations is the way that oftentimes people describe caregiving isn't how it shows up in real life. It's all about the tasks, which means people say, well, I don't do those tasks, so I'm not in a caregiving situation. So they don't think, well, I shouldn't be getting support. But in truth, caregiving is all kinds of situations and experiences, and taking care of your sister emotionally is a really intense way of caregiving
Yeah.
because you were so it's interesting. We talk about 19 caregiving systems that we manage during our caregiving experience. One of them is a family system, and one of them is a nervous system. And we think about just managing our nervous system, but that's not the only nervous system we manage. Like, for instance, you are very aware of the impact on your sister's nervous system. So you made choices about how to keep her nervous system as calm as possible because you knew what would happen if her nervous system was activated on her health. So you didn't want to make her situation worse. And
Yeah.
then you were being intentional in relationship with your parents around their nervous system. Then I would imagine too at home, you were in a place where you're like, well, I've got to take care of my nervous system in my marriage, right? Because
Mhm.
you don't want your marriage to pay the price for what's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It's a lot. And
yes.
for people who, like you say, aren't, you think, well, I'm not a caregiver. I mean, I'm not there. I live in another state. I'm just doing kind of the logistical coordination, maybe. Your little antenna are up and attuned, and that takes energy 24/7 a day. It's like, even if you're not there, there can almost be things that are harder because you're not there. Your little heart is like, maybe I should be there. It's just all lots of energy, what I call mental energy leaks.
Yes.
And I think people get caregivers get mentally exhausted before they get physically exhausted,
Yes,
usually. Yeah.
yes. I think you just feel so drained. And I think if we were to define caregiving by whether or not you have worries about a family member, then we would reach so many more individuals in a caregiving situation because worry is our common, there's so many common emotions. But I think when I say to someone, how worried are you about a family member? They're like, I worry all the time. You're a family caregiver. Because the
Yeah.
worry is ever present, and that's part of what drains us, and we're not sure what to do with this worry. And then people say to us, "You're worried for nothing." And you're thinking, "No, I'm worried for something." I'm worried for a really good reason because things are not in a good place, and I'm worried what will happen because of that.
Mm. Mhm.
Which can oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and the reason that people like yourself and people like me are here offering support and strategy and coaching is because there is a gap between getting guidance, like, oh, that's a good idea. There's lots of lists out there for caregivers and like, you should do this. It's like, yeah, 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 yeah. Getting the guidance and applying it to your actual complex, unique situation, there's a gap in between there. And there's several things in that gap personal to you that can prevent you from actually applying all the good advice that's out there for caregivers. So at this workshop, like they will get some really good advice. They will get some how to steps. They will get a process. And then my question is, okay, but then what might get in the way of you applying that? And that's where the next level of conversing or joining a group and getting support with is just applying the guidance, applying the guidance. Yeah.
Absolutely. Every situation is different. I've been talking to family caregivers since 1990, and I've never had the same situation. Never. It's never the same. So when you think about that general guidance, it's generally okay, but specifically, it really needs to be tailored and tweaked and adjusted. And that also takes time and energy.
Mhm.
'Cause those tweaks don't sorry, I always get the balloons when I put up my I know, I don't know how to turn that off. Anyway, it takes energy to put the tweaks into place, and as we're tweaking, we're also managing the systems, including nervous systems. We're trying something new, which is going to make us perhaps a little nervous, our carees nervous, our siblings and other family members nervous, so it takes intentional steps and support around those steps to actually add in something that could feel like, "Ah, maybe this'll work for us."
Yeah. We're all just amateurs.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
just like
yeah.
trying to handle all this. Like, we're all just amateurs, us caregivers. No one taught us how to do
Life
this.
yeah, in life too, I always feel like, "Huh, I wish I would have known that yesterday." Yeah, well, I know it today, so here we go. All right, Christine, this was fabulous to connect with you today. Thank you so much, and I'm really looking forward to your workshop. Tell us the name of your workshop.
It is family anger in the aftermath of caregiving, an unconventional approach to recovering from residual rage and resentments.
Ooh, I love that, and I love alliteration, so
Me too.
awesome. Yeah. I'm so looking forward to seeing you. October 25th is the date for our virtual Beginning Again retreat, and we're so grateful that you're devoting your time and your wisdom to support us.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, thanks for watching and listening. If you are in a situation where caregiving is ending or has ended, and it doesn't matter if it has ended 5 years ago, feel free to join us because we'd love to support you wherever you are in your after caregiving experience. Our registration is free. We also are giving out free CEUs. If you're a social worker or a nurse, you can earn CEUs by joining us. It's October 25th, which is a Saturday. We begin at 10 a.m. Eastern Time and go for 3 hours. And you can register to join us by going to caringourway.com. Okay, thanks everyone. Take care.